Hey friends, if you know me, you know I'm a sharer. I believe that sharing our stories is what helps us connect and understand one another and know that we're not alone and all of that. And man, I've got so many stories to share. And I've been thinking about sharing some of them um, for a long time now, but just stuff always happens and comes up, and like I never have the time to like share it in the perfect format or like outline what I'm gonna say and all that kind of stuff. So, anyways, I want to just start making a series of videos sharing things. And the first thing I'd like to share is one of the earliest traumas, I guess, that I experienced as a kid because I've been sexually assaulted multiple times in my life, and I've always been open about it because that was that was the thing I figured I could do in order to help the situation was be open about it so that other people would know they're not alone, and then also to raise awareness so that those people that are blind to this kind of crap happening in the world, like or maybe slightly enlightened or something. Anyways, so the first time I was assaulted, I was molested. I was a toddler. I was a toddler. I was in my family's apartment, and my cousin and I were watching TV. And I can still kind of like visualize like the sofa and the TV and all that stuff. And I was so young, I didn't know what was going on. It was like I know that I knew it was something weird, but it wasn't until later that I kind of realized what had happened. But I just remember watching TV with my cousin on the sofa, and he put his hand between my legs. And if my memory's accurate, I'm pretty sure one of my parents walked in and caught him, and then we didn't see him for a very long time. But yeah, that was the first thing to happen to me. Something else happened to me a little later as a kid, and I guess I'll just go ahead and tell that one now too. We can lump them together. So a little later, I'm guessing that I was somewhere between, like when I was a kid, I kept up with when it was by like what grade I was in and not my age. Um, it was somewhere between first and second grade, I believe. Could have been a little earlier, but I had a different cousin who happened to be the brother of the first one that molested me, who, I mean, I guess technically like raped me, but it wasn't like vaginal sex, it was like oral sex and stuff. But he did that. I mean, I vividly remember at least twice. I think it probably happened more than twice, but I remember, I was a little older, so like, uh, I was more along the lines of like, leave me alone, blah 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 blah. But he was, a good bit older than me, and used a lot of threats. And he's like, "Do what I say, or I'll kill your parents." And me being a little kid, was very afraid of that. So I remember one of the two encounters, and if you're triggered by stuff, just go away because I'm going to describe what happened to me. So I remember one of the two encounters, we were in the backyard behind a shed, and he pulled down his pants in front of me and basically made me give him oral. And that was probably the first time because I remember that that's when he threatened to kill my parents. And I remember looking at him and then looking at my home. I could see the windows to my parents' bedroom, and like processing what he had just said, that sort of thing. And then the other time that I vividly remember, we were in the backyard in a different area in a garden, like between the plants and stuff. And he touched me in different places and stuff like that. And this same cousin, I later found out, like, had sex with one of my other girl cousins or whatever. So, like, he was definitely probably messing with a lot of people. And then the other memory I have of him is he was babysitting me, my brother, and my sister in a different house. And um, he laid down on a bed in our bedroom and asked if we wanted to see him pee milk. I had no idea what he was doing at the time, but now that I'm an adult, I mean, he was masturbating in front of us. We were like, we're like, what's going on? Because we were so young, we didn't know what any of this was. Anyways, it's kind of weird because like I remembered that stuff at the time. Like I remember being aware of what was happening. I mean, even though I didn't like really understand what was happening. And then I also remember that my brain forgot it. And a few years later, it started coming back to me, and I struggled for a while to figure out like was it a dream or was it real? But man, it kept coming back over and over again, and finally like those senses kicked in, and I was like, yeah, I definitely remember that. Like that wasn't made up in my head, and like all and then all of this stuff, and then my siblings also remembered the pea milk thing, so that helped. But man, from I've done a lot of research, or at least a decent amount of research on like sexual assault and stuff, as an adult, and the majority of the time it's somebody you know. It's either a family member or a friend, um, of the family, and I just really want people to be aware of that. You don't know who you can trust, and that is a really hard part of life. I mean, sometimes you can, but I think most people are like so blinded that this is such a. I mean, this is the statistics from my experience and all the people I've talked to. I mean, growing up, like 4 out of 5, like every group I was in, at least 4 out of 5 of the people had been assaulted or raped in some way. And yeah, I mean, I'm pretty freaking sure it's at least 80% of the freaking population. But yeah, it's usually someone that's close to the family or something like that. Like now in these two cases, as a young kid, um, they both of my cousins were teenagers. I think somewhere between the ages of like 14 and 17. You know, um, uh, so yeah. Anyways, it's interesting because it doesn't like it bothered me when I remembered it. Like the I remembered like feeling the fear from when they threatened my family, and also like not um, appreciating like being forced to do something. But I was so young at the time. I was so young at the time that I didn't actually know what was going on, and I don't think I had yet formed any like feelings of like shame or anything related to like sex and stuff. I just didn't like being forced to do something I didn't want to do, didn't like being my family being threatened, and didn't like feeling like just having that spidey sense. It's like I didn't mentally know what was happening or understand the significance of it. But some part of me instinctively knew that this was not an okay thing. And it's interesting to me, um, as an adult, to kind of compare and contrast those experiences to my experiences of being like raped for 2 years by an older man, my ex stepfather. And I'll make another video to talk about that later. But it's interesting because the stuff that happened to me as a kid, it was more like an uncomfortable, like bad dream, but it didn't mess me up like what happened to me as a teenager. And I assume, it's because, you're more developed and you're in like a very, I don't know, intense state as a teenager, that sort of thing. But uh, yeah, it didn't mess me up nearly as bad. And when I think about it, I don't really have any feelings associated with it aside from, like the only feeling that like really jumps out to me when I think about it is that my cousin threatened to kill my parents. And I do remember, I mean, I eventually told my parents, but like way, way, way later. And uh, I will say, I was proud of myself because I remember when I was a little bit older, this cousin stopped by our house, and it was just me and my dad living there at the time. And I I saw that it was him. I answered the door, and I honestly don't know I don't think I had a weapon on me, but I might have had a weapon on me or near me or whatever. And I just like cracked the door open and basically told him to like leave and not ever come back. You know, like I stood up for myself in some way. I know I felt like if he came in and tried to force anything that I wanted to hurt him, because I think we all have a right to defend ourselves. Um, you know, and I'm proud of the fact that I did have at least like that, you know, like I may have never have gotten like really any like, you know, confrontation, etc., you know, like satisfaction or him being punished or anything like that. But I'm glad that I at least had that moment where I stood up to him. I mean, and I was in like somewhere between like the third and fifth grade, so I was still pretty young. So I feel like that was a pretty big and brave and impressive thing for me to do at that time. But um, yeah, I like sharing my stories. To me, holding things in feels like it's like poison in the body. And every time I talk about the things that have happened to me, and discuss, you know, like the finer details and stuff like that, it's like a little bit more of that poison leaves my body. And so, you know, if anyone ever wants to chat, you know, privately, publicly, whatever, I don't care. You know, if you have any questions about this kind of stuff, like I'm more like I want to talk about it. You know, I don't mind being asked like uncomfortable questions or hard questions or whatever. As I know part of my like healing journey has been, you know, processing what I experienced, you know, thinking about like why the fuck does this happen so much in the world? And then also thinking about and processing like my own like reactions and feelings and thoughts related to it, you know, in order to, you know, process it fully and, you know, get it out and stuff. But yeah, you know, everybody on this planet has some stories worth sharing. And, you know, yours don't have to be related to sexual assault or anything like that. But man, I sure do wish more people would start sharing their stories. I know a lot of this stuff is hard to talk about for people. So, you know, don't start with the thing that's the hardest for you to talk about. But start putting your stories out there, guys. I mean, we live in the perfect age of putting your stories out there. And it doesn't matter whether anybody watches or not. I mean, at least not to me. I mean, it's nice, of course, but you know, do it for yourself. I mean, someone might come across it. I mean, you know, I always told myself, man, if I just help one person, if I just help one person, that's good enough. And I have to help some people, but you know, now that I'm a little older, I'm just thinking, if I just help one person, and that person can be me, and it does help me. So I am helping someone when I share this stuff and get it out. I'm helping myself and hopefully others. But, you know, I think it's important to take care of yourself, um, to try and release past pain and trauma and stuff like that. So, yeah, take care of yourself. Share your stories, you know, even if it's just with like your own personal journal, or you know, I've got like one TikTok channel that's like it's just me like video journaling about some experiences that I'm having. And it's honestly like I'm doing it for me. I'm just making it public just in case somebody else gets some sort of, you know, benefit from it, that sort of thing. So yeah, see you in the next video.